As a kid, I thought sharks were the most cool animal the planet had, the one we knew so little about. I started swimming with sharks when I was a teenager and found out that it was, a totally life-changing experience. You get to fly in a three-dimensional world with dragons.
Getting up close with the Caribbean reef shark isn't everyone's idea of fun. But then Rob Stuart isn't your everyman. A wildlife photographer by trade, he decided he wanted to make a movie about sharks. A movie that would counter the image as a man-eating killer, played up by some fishermen and filmmakers.
Were hurt Saturday in another shark attack.
What do you think is one of the biggest myths, if you like, of sharks?
The biggest myth surrounding sharks is that sharks eat people. If sharks ate people, the oceans would be terrifying, and people would be getting eaten all the time.
So that's just not true?
That's not true. I mean, if you look at the facts, once in a while a shark bites somebody, it's very, very rare for a shark to eat a human being or even remove flesh.
To make the movie he called Shark Water, Rob Stuart needed to travel to places where there were lots of sharks. His first port of call was the Galapagos Islands in the Pacific Ocean. The Galapagos is a marine sanctuary, at least it's supposed to be. The kind of place where it should be possible to see sharks like these hammerheads. What Rob Stuart found, though, was something entirely different.
When I arrived, I found 100 kilometers of illegally set fishing lines and 200 dead sharks. And that made me realize that sharks are being killed, even in the most protected marine reserves on Earth.
At first, he was saddened. Then he became angry as he began to realize just how many sharks were being killed worldwide.
The situation for sharks couldn't be worse. The greatest amount of sharks caught on historical record were caught in 2007, after we already knew shark populations had dropped 90%.
Incensed at the mindless slaughter of this magnificent ocean predator, Rob Stuart also began to realise very few countries or organisations were working to protect the creatures he loved. That's when he met Paul Watson, wildlife activist and captain of the Sea Shepherd.
We don't really understand what we are. In essence, we're a conceited naked ape, but in our minds we're some sort of divine legend, and we see ourselves as some sort of god, that we can walk around the earth deciding who will live and who will die and what will be destroyed and what will be saved.
Watson and his crew had been invited to Costa Rica to confront the longline fishermen who were hunting sharks to extinction off the coast of Central America. In particular, the government was concerned by the practice of shark finning, catching sharks for their fins alone to service the lucrative Asian market. Rob Stuart took his camera, and it wasn't long before the action started.
They are illegally fishing and they have to come with us.
We've got to make a decision whether we're going to tow him or he's going in under his own power.
They're dragging a shark.
When the fishing boat refused to stop, Captain Paul Watson took matters into his own hands. With the illegal fishing vessel in tow, Watson and his crew should have been heroes. Instead, on reaching port, they were arrested.
As soon as we got there, we ended up getting charged with attempted murder. It was absolutely ludicrous, until we realized that there had to be some sort of connection between the fishing industry and the government.
His intuition proved to be right. Acting on the advice of an informer, the filmmaker was taken to a warehouse owned by Asian businessmen claimed to be involved in the illegal trade of shark fins. At that point, Rob Stuart realised just how big the shark finning industry really is, and how even governments have been corrupted. How do you describe the shark finning industry when you look at it?
The shark finning industry is one of the largest threats to the oceans and to, human survival. We're destroying one of the most important predators the planet has, and it's going on every day in unprecedented ways. I mean, they're wasting 95% of the animal. It's like killing an elephant for ivory or a rhinoceros for its horns, except it's happening to the tune of 100 million sharks every year.
If all of this sounds like a spy thriller, it's not. As Rob Stuart will tell you, illegally killing sharks for their fins is creating a potential ecological disaster. Sharks eat small and medium-sized fish that feed on phytoplankton. That phytoplankton absorbs carbon dioxide. If shark numbers fall, the medium-sized fish multiply, leaving less phytoplankton to absorb CO2. The result? More global warming.
Sharks sit at the top of ocean food chains, where they've sat for over 400 million years. Now, the most important issue in any global warming debate isn't industry or cars, it's life in the oceans. Life in the oceans that largely sits below sharks in the food chain.
It's a major warning, and according to shark experts in Australia, it's a theory we should take notice of.
We know that if you take top predators out of any system, you're going to cause changes. And so, yes, there are going to be, and there probably already are, ecosystem effects of removal of large predators like sharks.
Perhaps we don't all want to swim with sharks, but to destroy a group of species that have been part of the ocean's ecology for 400 million years in ignorance would be a terrible tragedy. It would be ironic too if in saving sharks we were indeed saving ourselves.